and welcome to Sitecore Standard Values Podcast. I am your host, Rick Bauer, Director of Customer Transformation at Sitecore. In this podcast, we continually seek to provide deeper insights into the value of Sitecore as a solution to business problems. With regular episodes from me in the US and my counterpart Sultan in the Netherlands, we will alternate to bring you a variety of guests to share their global perspectives and experiences through a rich tapestry of discussion, opinion, and thought experiments. My guest today is Tiffany Laster, Senior Business Consultant at Perficient and newly named Sitecore Strategy MVP. Congratulations on that very important award.
Thank you.
I say that with a little bias. And props and respect to the work that it takes to achieve that. So welcome, Tiffany, to Sitecore Standard Values. Please tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself and your role at Perficient, or anything else you'd like to share before we dive into the topic.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm a recently named MVP. I am a senior business consultant at Perficient. What that really means is I get to do a lot of cool digital strategy work. So I work with clients on their content strategy, personalization. I dabble in a little bit in analytics. I also work heavy with products like Content Hub, Sitecore Personalize, XP, XM, and all the fun, cool new tools from Sitecore. So.
And I see a number of blog posts from you as well. So always great to have people out there writing and contributing to the community, which is a big part of the MVP piece. And we always love to see that thought contribution.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about, you dubbed it this, and I love it. It's marketing mixology, mixing data and creativity. I like that. I appreciate the little cocktail twist on that. All right.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. And I've known you for a number of years, and I've known you to be a technically minded person, adept in that lane, but also creative in business and strategy thinking. So you are one of the unicorns out there that kind of can bridge the gap between strategy and technical, which I always find fascinating and a superpower. So kudos. That's amazing.
You flatter me too much.
It is a rarity. So take it for sure. So, but let me ask you, like, from your perspective, how does that creativity and technology like merge and come together in the marketing world?
Yeah, I definitely think they work together and collaboratively. I think that there's a big need for creativity still. Even in this world where we have all the data at our fingertips of how people are engaging and performing on our website and even the user research, there is something about creativity that can't really be replaced. I think it brings unique and fresh perspectives to businesses that might not otherwise happen. You need creatives to meet customers where they're at, and maybe in a way that they didn't even anticipate. I think it catches attention, it catches and keeps loyalty and brand loyalty if you're engaging customers in unique and new ways. And so creativity really brings that fresh perspective and just in a sense of connectivity. I think back to a campaign that I actually saw recently from a skincare product that I had just been following on Instagram. And they threw up this whole campaign about it's a throwback to 90s, or, shop like it's 1996, because that was when they were born as a company. And they did an entire 90s campaign where all their Instagram posts and Facebook posts had 90s wear. And they also did a complete website lift of 90s style site where it was like Times New Roman. They had these like pop-up funky messages. Their whole images had changed. And they even had a little Spotify playlist in the background, I think as a play on MySpace. And it completely caught my attention. I instantly just was clicking through the site, and I ended up purchasing 2 products that day. And I had been following them for months. And so I just think that was a way that somebody probably sat at a table or, in a Zoom call now and was like, let's do this campaign. These are our audience members. I think they would really enjoy this. It's kind of our anniversary. And they brought a whole new idea that probably was a difficult sell considering the level of effort it was taking, because not only did they do the social media, but the whole website lift as a whole. And I think that's kind of a way where creativity can help boost conversion rate, keep people interested.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody like me who is stagnant as just an Instagram follower literally purchased 2 products that day. And I'm sure they caught
Nice.
a bunch of other more people, as I saw probably like-minded marketers commenting on the Instagram posts like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. They were all engaging. And I think that's one way creativity can play a role, but they had to have the data. They had to know who their customer was and
Yeah.
how to reach them and probably give some business value to this bigger effort campaign. And I think data probably also played a fact in, or should have played a fact in measuring ROI. I think that's where data kind of comes into the creativity. It can be a good jumping start, but it can also be a really great supporter in the background of, we did this really great thing, this really creative thing, but here's how it actually gave us business value.
That's a really good point. The after is certainly, I mean, it should be table stakes at this point. I don't know that it always is, because I feel like a lot of companies still struggle to have that data picture, but the before factor is also really, really, really critical. And, like, I would imagine. So first of all, I have a question about that campaign. Is the packaging, did they redo the packaging, or was that already matching kind of the 90s?
It was kind of matching. It was just a simple box, but they definitely had like colorful, gosh, I'm missing the word here, but packaging, like little string to make sure it was all cushioned up because it was skincare products with glass bottles. But yeah, they didn't match the packaging. They could have made it all, bright blue and pink.
Right. Either way, I mean, what fun for a stylist and a designer to be able to just go to an era and pick that apart. So back to your point, the data beforehand, and then you got the creatives that are just like, I really want to do this. How do you decide? I mean, sure, there's probably the times where the two meet, but if they don't, or just in general, how do you decide between data, creativity, the mix? What's your thoughts on that?
Really great question. And it's funny because how I always approach personalization programs is we will start with data. I'll do a site audit. I'll figure out where the bounce rate is happening. But I think where creativity probably takes the lead in that is if you're stagnant. If you're not really seeing a lot of failure, a lot of growth, that's probably when you need to start meeting outside the box of, okay, we're doing well, but how can we be doing better? The data probably isn't there to support it quite yet. So you just really probably need to hit the board and start throwing ideas at a dartboard and figuring out what sticks and what doesn't, and trusting your gut. Creative people have this talent and this eye, and it's quite impeccable to be a part of when maybe a random thought becomes this genius idea and the data's not there yet. It's something that you're going to have to kind of take a guess on and then see if it fails. And that's part of experimentation too. A good experiment in the optimization world doesn't always have to be successful. It can also teach you about your failures too. So
fail fast, but absolutely take the risk, because the data on the other side can then help. It may not be the data winning on the front end on that one. It's the creative person saying, trust me, I've been doing this a long time, but then you can use the data to prove it out.
Yes, exactly.
So that's fascinating. So, and I think of creatives. I've been I work, as part of the customer transformation team, and we will be out there working on road mapping. We'll be out there talking about using your data and using data to drive those roadmaps, and being so data focused. Are we abusing those? Are there downfalls in data driven roadmaps? Sometimes I feel like with anything you can go too far, and maybe that's not the problem, but just have you seen pitfalls in data driven roadmaps?
Oh, I think the only pitfall is it can be a hindrance if you're so focused on, well, is there data, but the data, like the previous example, may not always exist at that moment. You may have to take some risks to get the data that you need to understand your customers. Where are the pitfalls? Where are the downfalls? I definitely think making sure that you're keeping a creative mindset for and foremost and using data to support it is going to be the better approach. And ultimately, keep a competitive edge, be able to innovate and collaborate. Data doesn't always support that. So just making sure that you're kind of keeping that balance and being able to take those reasonable risks, I think, is something that just needs to be in the forefront of somebody's mind when you're especially starting on an optimization program, for example.
Again, you bridge that gap well. Do you ever find that being the strategist and the creative, basically, termed creatives, right? A lot of times strategists, marketers, they get lumped into that creative bucket, right? So do you have, is there like stigma when you're working with customers to say, well, you're a creative, what do you know about data? Or how can you be a data focused person? Do you find that that's evolving in the landscape out there nowadays?
Oh, definitely. There's still a stigma. Yeah. I think I'm one of the people, I will say that surprises people when I come up with a creative idea and I'm like, well, look at this data that I'm seeing. I think I mentioned that when I'm building a personalization program, one of the first things I do is a site audit and defining that data strategy. I do see the lines getting more blurred. I think marketers need to understand what type of data is needed to not only support their ideas, but how to support their personalization ideas. Your personalization engines heavily depend on the data that you're collecting and how to target certain audience members. So making sure that the marketers can understand the data needs and what's in existence, where are the gaps, and how to ask for that, I definitely think is necessary. Obviously, your marketers aren't really going to become data analysts overnight or data scientists, but I think being able to make sure that marketers have a foundational understanding of data and that bigger part it'll play with their asks and wants fosters the collaboration between that data creativity part that makes an optimization program super successful in the long run. And just making sure, again, that your analysts and your marketers have a line of communication and collaboration I've seen be some of the most successful programs, definitely.
I firsthand, never been a data scientist, but come from a marketing background. But I'll roll back a number of years when I was a beginning Sitecore customer, and working in at that time Sitecore XP, and the data that was available was enough data for me. That was to me all I needed to be able to make my decisions, and that is one thing that I like about Sitecore's data. You're like I say, you're blogging a lot about Sitecore products. What are you seeing as far as analytics in the Sitecore space, and is that helping bridge that gap between the marketer and the data analyst a little?
Yeah. So Sitecore does a really great job of providing the analytics that you need, especially kind of like you mentioned in the XP world. It has robust analytic solutions like experience analytics and experience optimization, as well as the path analyzer to really give you that data set that you're looking for and making sure that you understand your customers and their needs, as well as that personalization engine part. I definitely see XM Cloud playing a part in analytics, as well as they've come out with some basic website performance reports. And then once you add on personalize and CDP, it just gets out of this world when it comes to opportunities. Not only are you getting that 360-degree view of your customer and how they perform, but you can also leverage that right into the personalized platform and making sure that you can target the audiences the way you need. And I love what they're doing with it. They're continuing to expand and build upon it. One of the most recent releases that they had was the customer journey reports. So a little bit different than the path analyzer in terms of UI, but definitely hitting that same mark of making sure you understand that user journey throughout your site. I think that's going to be super important. And they seem to be really dedicated to making sure that they're supporting that data aspect.
Absolutely. Yes. That's definitely a focus going forward, is, being able to provide a better data picture. And I'm excited to see the updates, upgrades as well, and the move in the right direction. So, from someone that used to train people on the path analyzer, that was always a favorite. So it's nice to have that journey based, being able to kind of spot areas that are working great, areas that might need improvement that you could personalize or test. It's a powerful feature.
Yes.
When you're working with your customers or teams, do you find that you need specific buy-in from certain certain roles in the organization, like more talking around governance, like how do you these programs are complex. It takes time. It's not something you just flip a switch and you're up and running, because they're so bespoke to each organization. They need it to fit their brand and what, multiple companies, one company, B2B, B2C, B2X, all that kind of stuff. Who do you need buying into these programs?
I think initially it can be a pretty small team. Obviously, you probably have your digital leader, such as your CMO, but really the people running the programs, I've seen us start out with marketers, developers, and really a designer. A lot of companies actually have their own designers, so we usually get in a room making sure we stay on brand, they have the right components, but then you have your developer who really can make sure that, especially in the personalized and CDP world, that they're building the templates that you need, such as the decision models and the web templates to utilize. But then you also have your marketers kind of leading the charge when it comes to what are we personalizing, what should we personalize first, being that feature prioritization kind of role play there, and being the one to implement it once the developer gets done working. And marketers typically play that role between the data analysts and marketers at that stage in a program. But obviously, as you scale, it's impossible for 3 people to run a very big, complex optimization program.
as much as some may try.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So we tend to see it scale to, you might have a content strategist, still marketer being kind of the leader in that realm, a front end, a back end developer, designer. It starts to really kind of be more robust, and a data analyst. We try to pull that in as soon as it gets a little bit too large. But we've been building a recommended operational model, especially for items like CDP and personalized. That way clients can take full advantage of that.
Such a great point. Those pods, if you will, like having a dev, having a data analyst, and everyone working cohesively as a unit really can accelerate the process when it comes to personalization, when it comes to just accelerating the content for a brand. Absolutely. Yeah. So, all right. So I want to go all the way back to the beginning when we were talking about marketing mixology and mixing data and creativity. So if you had to create a drink or a cocktail, if you had to blend this together, give me the recipe for said drink.
I've been on a whiskey sour kick, and I think it's a complex drink enough to encompass all the factors and variables that play into marketing nowadays. So I think I would have to say a rosemary fig whiskey sour. It's something that I've had recently. It's got a little bit of everything. Got the creaminess from the egg white, a little bit of smokiness and the fruit. And I'm a big herbaceous drink person. So I think that hits it right on the nail for me. It covers the full palette, and I think it covers exactly what this is. It's marketing is a mix between art and science at this point. And I think the whiskey sour does a beautiful job of executing that.
So I heard whiskey sour egg white fig.
Oh, the rosemary fig whiskey sour, but it's got that egg white in it.
Okay. Wow. All right. So I might need the recipe from you to put in the comments so people can try this, because that's what we try and do here at Sitecore Standard Values, provide a little extra value so you come and learn about, data and creativity and marketing and get a drink mix out of it. So.
It's exciting for your taste buds too.
I love it. It sounds fascinating. I don't know about the fig part for me, but it sounds fascinating. So awesome. Sitecore Standard Values, for those that are familiar with that term, it's been around Sitecore for a long time. It's a definition around Sitecore that's been used by developers for quite some time. Also the name of our podcast. Also my next question to you. So Tiffany, what is your standard value?
Yeah, I think I would say curiosity. I think curiosity plays a big role in how to be fulfilled in life. I think it can foster empathy, make you become a resourceful person, and also just help you grow. This world is constantly evolving and there are new things to learn and explore. And I definitely try to do that in my everyday life, as well as just making sure that I'm getting to experience everything this life has to offer. So, yeah.
I love it. Curiosity. Thank you. Well, thank you again for sharing this topic and sharing the blending of data and creativity. It's something I've firmly believed in a long time, and it's not too often that I run into that embodied in one person. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on that and doing everything you do for the Sitecore community. Congratulations again on that MVP, and keep it going, I'm sure. And once again, thank you for being a guest on Sitecore Standard Values.
Thank you so much for having me. Look forward to Symposium too. So.
Indeed. Cheers, everyone.